Good evening. So for these 4 episodes, right, starting with episode 36 and going up to episode 39, I'm just going to be talking all about all these different editions that came out from the year 2000 and on. I'm not an expert in these, so I can't tell you too much. But what I will do is I'll fill out a character sheet for you, and I'll talk a little bit about the gaming mechanics that are in each of these editions. And then I'm going to compare a couple of monsters, and I'll compare a couple of spells. Aside from that, that's all I'm really going to do in these videos, right? I hope that they'll be helpful for you. But anyway, I'm hoping it'll just be a good way for you to break the ice on these different editions if you're interested in finding out more about them. So let's get going. Today I'm going to talk about edition 3.5. So let's go through a character sheet. I'll show you how to put one together. What I noticed is in version 3.0 they had a piece of software in the back of the book that you put on your computer to help you make a character, which I thought was helpful. They also had a character sheet in the back of the book that was already filled out, and I thought that was helpful too. And in the beginning of the book they had like a 2-page spread that went through the character sheet and explained what you do to fill out each of the areas, which I also thought was helpful. They don't have any of that for 3.5, but they do have the character sheet. So anyway, I'll help you, okay? They've got character sheets now in each of the different editions, all the way from 3 all the way up to 5, I believe. So I'm very happy to see that. And let's get moving here. So I've got all this divided up into 3 different color codes, right? So all these areas here that are red and yellow, those areas you're going to have to either figure out on your own or you have to look them up in a book. Then you've got these green-blue areas, and those are important later on in the game. They're not important when you're making your character. And you've got these yellow-red areas, right? You just take information that you've already looked up in these yellow areas and you copy it here. So you only have to worry about these red-yellow areas. The rest will take care of itself. So here we go. Some things you just have to choose: your character name, your player name, your gender, your eye color, hair color, skin color. You just choose all that. Oh, before I begin, I'm going to talk about this as fast as I can. I just want to get through this as quickly as possible. But if you want more detail, I've added a lot of notes all throughout this character sheet, both sides. So go ahead and feel free. If you need more information, just go ahead and take a look. Anyway, here we go. So that's the stuff you just have to choose. And from here on out, you got to use your book a lot. So just be prepared. They suggest that you you choose your class and your race at the same time. A class is like a profession. A race is like your species, right? So you choose those at the same time. And of course, you're going to be level 1. Everybody starts out at level 1. Your alignment, it's the same system. It's your belief system. It's the same system they used in editions 1 and 2. So that's easy enough for the old guys to do. Your deity, you don't have to have one. Talk to your DM. He might have a different group of deities for you to choose from. He might not be using the ones in the book. Your age and your height and your weight, it's easy to figure out. Everyone's size is medium, unless you happen to be a halfling or a gnome, and then you're going to be small. Okay, from here on out, let's talk about these ability scores. You have to roll 46 to get each one of them, but then you're going to get rid of the lowest, right? So you're actually only going to be adding up 3d6, but you do it once for each one of these scores. You have to add to these ability scores different numbers depending on your race, and you can find that list on page 12. I'm sorry I didn't include it here, but I just didn't have room. Page 12 to get your racial modifiers for these scores, and then you put the final total in these boxes. Then you go to page 8, and page 8 has one chart. It's the backbone of the D20 system. And basically you just take your ability scores and you look them up in that chart, and it tells you what your ability modifier is. And from here on out, until this character dies, you're going to be adding these numbers to certain rolls that you make or certain experiences that you encounter to see whether or not you failed them or if you were successful to them. It's actually pretty easy. You just take your ability score and you subtract 10, and then you divide it by 2, and then you round down. And that's how you get these numbers, right? Anyway, what you'll also notice is that it calls for pages 21 to 60 a lot. That's just the sections of the player's handbook that talk about different character classes. You have to go there for a lot of different things. And you only need a few of those pages. This is the few that apply to your own character class. So anyway, let's just keep going. I'm going to get rid of these green-blue areas because we don't really need to mess with them at all. Okay, for your hit points, depending on your class, you get a different hit die. It just means a different style of die, either a D6 or a D8 or a D10, right? So, because I'm a fighter, I get a D10, but I also get to add to that my Constitution bonus, or my Constitution ability modifier, so it's a total of 11. So, your armor class, right? It shows what another person has to roll on a D20 or better in order to hit you. So, this has a lot, you get 10 just by standing there, right? Everybody gets 10. But that number may change depending on your own personal abilities and your armor, right? So here you get your dex modifier, you copy that over here. Your size modifier, you copy that from over here, but I guess a number, right? And then here it's armor bonus and shield bonus. And they talk about those on the back on the back of this page, right? So I got my gear from the starting packages listed in pages 21 to 60. If I had been a dwarf, they would have given me a shield. I could have bought one anyway, but nonetheless, I didn't get a shield. Scale mail, my armor class bonus is 4, right? So that means that here I would get a 4, but because I didn't get a shield, I got no number here. You add all this up, that gives you a 17. So for somebody to hit me, they have to roll a 17 or better on a 20-sided die. It sounds good, but everybody gets a ton of bonuses for things. So anyway. As a rule, I'm an elf, right? My max speed is 30 foot around. Because of my scale mail, because it's kind of a heavier suit of armor, I only get this 20. So that's why here I only wrote this 20. Okay, so my full armor class is 17, but sometimes a guy doesn't need to actually get through my armor to hit me. They just need to be able to touch me. So like if a wizard's casting Shocking Grasp, he doesn't need to roll a 17 or better. He only needs to roll a 13 or better because he gets to ignore my armor, right? But then other times somebody might attack me and I'm not aware that I'm about to be attacked, so like a backstab. And in those instances, my dexterity is ignored, so I would have a 14. They would have to roll a 14 or better to hit me. Initiative, right? Everybody rolls 20-siders in 3rd edition and on, right? So you have to roll higher than what your opponent rolls, but you can add things to that, right? So I get to add my dex modifier, 3. I don't have any other modifiers. So I get a total of plus 3. So if I roll a 7, it becomes a 10, right? It increases the odds of me attacking first in a given round. Saving throws. In old editions, they had 5 different saving throws. In 3rd edition, 3.5, they just have these 3. They're all based on 3 of these different abilities. And then you could just copy that information over here, right? So I've got this Constitution bonus, ability modifier 1 that comes from Constitution, and this one's from Dexterity 3, this one's from Wisdom, so I only get a 1, right? But then I also get to add numbers to that because of my class. You add all these numbers up and then you come up with these totals. So when some guy's like throwing a fireball at me and it's got a difficulty class of like 17, right? I have to roll a 17 or better to get out of the way of the fireball. But if I roll like a 16, I would fail, right? But because of my reflex dexterity check, this ability, this bonus, right? I get to add 3 to my roll, it becomes a 19, and I can get out of the way, and then the damage that I suffer reduces somewhat, right? Base attack bonus. That's what I add to my 20-sider to see if I hit somebody. It's my bonus because I'm a fighter, right? So this guy, he's got an armor class of 17. I'm trying to hit a guy with a 17. If I roll a 16, I fail, right? But I add my attack bonus, 1, so it becomes a 17, and I hit. Some of the races in D&D get an innate spell resistance. It's like spell resistance, magic resistance from 1st and 2nd edition, like with the Drowhead, right? And so anyway, you would write that there if it's innate. Grapple. It's my bonus for just grabbing a guy and holding him down to the ground, right? It's not I'm not doing any damage, I'm just making it so he can't attack me anymore. I just take all these different scores from all these different areas. Base attack bonus, strength modifier, I add all that up and I get a 5. So if I want to hold somebody down, I got to roll his armor class or better. but I can add this 5 to it. Okay, these weapons, I got these all from the starting package, right? You either use a starting package from the data that's listed with your classes, or you can go a la carte. You get a certain amount of money. I think it's listed on page 112 for what your own character would get. And then you would just go through all the different pages and buy whatever it is you felt like buying. I just copied stuff over from the starting kit. I got these 2 weapons, right? The data here, they list it in the in the kit description, but honestly speaking, I had an easier time. Finding out what went where when I looked at the actual inventory pages on pages 111 to 132. So, if you have a hard time knowing what to put where, just go to the equipment pages 111 to 132. It makes a little bit more sense on what to put where. Okay, skills and ranks, right? So in this game, you've got skills, but you've also got feats, right? These are just different things that a player can learn that can affect your life during the game, right? A feat is just something you can do. If you can do a backflip, congratulations. That would be listed here. Actually, probably more under special abilities. But anyway, this is just something that you learn once and then you never forget, but you can't get any better at it. Skills, on the other hand, are things like swimming or forgery or different things that, I mean, there are some forgeries that are very bad and some forgeries that are extremely good. And it all depends on your skill level, your rank level in that, right? So I was allowed to have 2 minus my intelligence modifier times 4 skill points that I could spend somewhere. And because my intelligence is so low, I only get 4 points to spend anywhere, right? So I put them all here in swimming, right? This -8, it comes from my armor check bonus. It's listed, armor check penalty, it's listed here. But when it comes to swimming, you have to add that number times 2. So instead of just -4, it's a -8. So if I want to swim waters that have a difficulty class of like 10, I have to roll a 10 or better in order to swim successfully. If I don't roll successfully, I may drown, I may stop moving. But I get to roll this 2, right, to that number. These numbers, right, my ability modifier, my ranks, and then this is the miscellaneous modifier because of my armor, right? And then this is my strength ability modifier, which is, I have a good strength, so that's where all these numbers come from. There are some skills that are common for your class, so like swimming, that's good. Fighters do that, right? Then there are other skills that are not common for your class, like sleight of hand, like search, like open locks. That's something that maybe thieves or wizards might do better, right? So if you're going to buy skills, if you're going to buy skill ranks in these cross-class skills, something that another class is usually better at, everything is double. If I spend 1 point, so like if I spend 1 point here in spellcraft, that's fine, but I only get a half rank here. And for all these areas that are cross-class skills for me, they suggest that I put a big X here, right? It says it right here, mark this box with an X if skill is a class skill for the character. I think what they meant to say, I think this is a typo, mark this box with an X if the skill is a cross-class skill for the character. I think that's what they meant to say, and I think it's just a typo down here. Anyway, you're allowed to have your level plus 3. That could be your maximum rank in any given skill, except for cross-class skills. And then it's your level plus 1.5. That's the maximum you're allowed to have in that particular cross-class skill. So I could become an extremely good swimmer, but it's very hard for a fighter to become good at sleight of hand. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the back of the character sheet. Your DM chooses your campaign, right? My campaign, it's always Eastbrook, and then you always start out with 0 experience points. Your DM will give you more later, right? This area here, type, that was a little hard for me to understand. I didn't understand exactly where this word come from. If you go to the armor pages in the equipment lists, 111 to 132, It says it's got 3 different classifications of armor, right? They list it as light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, right? So you have to write what classification of armor it is, right? So scale mail happens to be considered a medium armor, right? So they would want to know that. That becomes important later when you're figuring out some things about encumbrance. AC bonus, max dex. So here, my ability modifier for dex is 3, but if I happen to have an 18 here and this was a 4, because of this armor, the max dex ability bonus I could have would be a 3. So anyway, armor check palette. Okay, spell failure, right? 25%. If I'm a wizard and I'm using scale mail, right, then I have a 25% chance of each and every spell that I cast failing. That's important. I kind of like this. So if you're a wizard and you want to wear plate mail, you certainly can, but then you're going to have problems if you actually want to cast spells. Just depends on different magic items you get. So there's a starting kit, and you can either copy all that stuff down here, or you can just get the lump sum of money and buy whatever it is you want to buy. Anyway, you add up how much total weight you're carrying, right? And you write that down here, and this becomes important. I'll explain it a little bit more later. Here's how much you can carry, right? If you happen to be carrying a medium load or a heavy load, that will affect your armor check penalty. I mean, it's like you've got an armor check penalty, but then you've also got an encumbrance penalty. And whichever one is greater affects these numbers here. So pay attention. You don't have to be precise, but you have to know how much you're carrying within these different categories, which is important. Okay. Money, money, money. Languages, easy to figure out. Special abilities, they come from a billion different areas. Do what you want to do. Feats, these are just simple things that a person learns, right? So, like, I just got these because of my character class, right? And I just went to those pages in the book and from the kit, and I just wrote down everything that they told me to write down. So this is what I have. Spells, this guy's a fighter, so I'm not going to do much about that. But if he was casting spells, right, it's 10 plus his intelligence modifier for other people to save versus my spell, right? So 10 plus his intelligence modifier, 9. So he's pretty easy to save against, right? And like I said, he's not a fighter. So that's how you fill out the character sheet. Hope it's helpful. I'm going to use the same audio for this next part that I used in my 3rd edition comparison. So every time I say 3rd edition, just realize you can also take that information and apply it to 3.5 as well. So I was going to look at a couple of different monsters and just compare them for you. So first I was going to look at the zombie. The biggest thing I noticed about all the monsters in 3rd edition is that here under feats, and then there's also going to be skills and special qualities, all this is stuff you're going to have to look up in other parts of your books, right? So the actual description that you're going to find in the 3rd edition monster manual is not a complete description. You're going to have to find out where this toughness skill, which I'm sure is in the player's handbook, right? You're going to have to look it up in the player's handbook and understand what this means so that you'll better understand the monster description. So that's going to be the hardest part, right? You're going to have to go and look up all the feats and all the skills and all these other things, special qualities, and find out, because those words actually have a very important meaning. It's like First Strike or like Defender in Magic the Gathering. The card isn't going to tell you what those things mean. They put the definition of those terms someplace else, and you're going to have to go look that up and find that out. Aside from that, just for the basics, right? What I noticed is that hit dice, the hit points of the monsters in 3rd edition tend to be higher, right? So like here, the average hit point of a zombie in D&D is going to be 9, but here it's 16, right? So that's more than 50% different, right? And the damage per attack, so you got the average here of 4.5, but you've got the average here of, oh, I guess that is an average of 4.5, isn't it? So the average is the same, which is interesting. I didn't notice that. But like armor class, right? The starter armor class in D&D is 10. That's for just a person with no armor on at all. And then it's the same here in 3rd edition, right? But in second edition, as armor classes get better, they go down, whereas in third edition, they go up, right? So this is 2 away from 10, and this is 1 away from 10. So the armor class seems to be about the same, right? Aside from that, the level of the monster, the challenge rating, it's a completely different system. And you're going to have to go to your Dungeon Master's Guide, 3rd edition, pages 100 to 102, 166, 167, to understand it. Second edition, you just add up these numbers and you give it to your players, right? But here, you actually have to do quite a bit of math. You have to figure out the average level of your party. You have to compare that with the encounter level. There's charts. You're going to have to keep looking them up. And the frustrating thing, the biggest and most frustrating thing, these charts are something that they should have put in the Dungeon Master's screen, but they didn't put them in there. So it takes the value of the Dungeon Master's screen and really knocks it down, because those are the sorts of charts that you would need to see often. So, okay, that was a zombie. I'm going to compare one more monster. Before I do that, though, I was going to just show you these formulas that you can use for converting armor classes back and forth from 2nd edition to 3rd edition. So, not only in 3rd edition did they change the armor class system, but they also changed the quality of the monsters. So, these formulas won't make your conversions perfect, but it should get you in the ballpark, right? So anyway, just take a look. It's pretty self-explanatory. So, okay, that was a zombie. I'm going to compare one more monster here. It's the Remoraz. Like I said, I mean, special attacks improve, grab, swallow whole, heat, tremor sense, power attack, all that stuff. They're all terms that you're going to have to look up in your player's handbook or in your Dungeon Master's Guide and find out what those things mean, so that when you get back here to the monster description, you'll understand it. So in other words, you need more than one book to understand how to play these monsters. Okay? Which is fine. Everybody's already got them anyway. So aside from that, we'll just look at the basic stuff, right? Hit dice. This is for the biggest Remoraz, the 14 hit die one, right? Who's got an average hit points of 63. And here, this is the smaller one, right? He's got an average hit point of 73, 10 more. So not only did the monsters, not only did they change the numbers to fit the new system, but the actual monsters are sometimes different, right? So like the zombie, I think I mentioned it, he's faster than humans now, right? Before, the zombies were half as fast as a human, and now they're faster if the human's wearing armor, right? So zombies got scarier, right? And then this Remoraz, right, he's physically a lot bigger, right? But the damage that he'll do, 66 versus 2d8 plus 12, the average is the same, right? So the same amount of damage, but more hit points, which is interesting. So armor class is 0, that's 10 lower than the base, right? 10. And armor class of 20, which is 10 better than the standard armor class of 10. So basically these two things have the same armor class, that's good. The armor class seems to translate over perfectly. Level 9 monster, challenge rating of 7. The 7 means that 4 7th level characters, if they fought this thing, it would be a fair fight. So, I mean, this whole XP value thing, you're going to have to just do a lot of studying to figure that out. I don't know that I like it, and it really frustrates me that those charts didn't make it into the Dungeon Master screen. Anyway, so that's how the monsters compare. It seems that they have more hit points, and the armor class seems to be about the same, and the damage seems to be about the same. So that's good. Okay, so I'm not using the 3.0 episode audio right now. This is new audio. The only thing that really changes is here in this casting timeline, right? So back in 2nd edition, everything was done by the round. You could cast one spell per round, right? But here in 3.0 and 3.5, all the rounds are not 1 minute long. They're only 6 seconds long. And in 3.0, you've got a bunch of different casting times that are possible. 1 action, 1 full round, 1 minute, 10 minutes, etc., right? What that basically means is that if you've got a spell that only takes 1 action to cast, then you can still also do your full movement rate as well during those 6 seconds, right? And if you've got a spell that takes 1 full round, it means you can cast your spell, but then you only get to move 5 feet, right? And then the rest is just the number of minutes the spell takes to cast, right? But here in 3.5, right, They've added this new thing called a free action, which means you can do it and it doesn't penalize you whatsoever. You can still do all of your normal stuff that you would normally do in a round. They use it in spells like Featherfall. I assume there's a bunch of cantrips that use it too. I haven't studied that, but I'm guessing, right? But then they changed the terminology a little bit. Instead of one action, they call it one standard action. And then you can do that, but then also do your full movement, right? But then there's other casting times, right, called a round. Instead of a full round, they just call it a round. And if you cast one of those spells, you can still move 5 feet, right? So, but then after that, they just list the number of minutes it takes to cast the spell for spells that take a longer amount of time to cast. Other than that, the spells are more or less the same from 2nd edition all the way to 3.5. I mean, it still is a 3rd level spell. It still takes verbal, somatic, and material components. The range is, well, similar. Anyway, the duration, I mean, the stuff is more or less the same, right? You still get so many spells per level that you have to study the night before so that you can cast them the next day. That system is the same. So now let's go take a look at teleport. The teleport is actually quite similar. They changed the casting time a little bit. Aside from that, it seemed like they did some fine tuning. The weighing up to 50 pounds per level isn't here. Instead, they did it in a different way. It's about the same thing. I'm not going to go into much detail about it. So anyway, I hope these videos have been helpful to you. I hope it's helping you understand how to go back and forth from 1st and 2nd to 3rd and 3.5. Next week I'm going to talk about 4th edition. And I guess that's it. Have a good week. I hope you're having fun.